Yo, what's up, world? APW Sports signing in for episode 8 of Chicago Bears Weekly. Now, I know I haven't posted a Bears episode in a while, and I apologize to you guys for that. So what I'm going to do this week is I'm going to make it up to you. Today is going to be episode 8, and this weekend I will post a second Bears episode to make up for the layoff of Bears episodes. And then today's episode, we're going to review a little bit of Bears history. Now, if you know, teams can be built by drafts, free agency, trades, all types of ways to build a team. But in today's video, we're going to review a little history about Bears transactions. Today, we're going to cover the top 5 trades in team history. And this is going to date back from the beginning of time, which is 1920, until now, our 100th season in the NFL. And so, without further ado, let's dive into it. First up, at number 5, we have the 2012 trade for Brandon Marshall from the Miami Dolphins. In the 2012 offseason, the Bears acquired Brandon Marshall from the Miami Dolphins for a 3rd round pick in 2012 and a 3rd round pick in 2013, thus reuniting him with his former Broncos teammate, quarterback Jay Cutler. At the time of the trade, Brandon Marshall was looked at as one of the elite receivers in the NFL, and for the Bears to get him for 2 3rd round picks, they were absolutely stealing Brandon Marshall from the Miami Dolphins. Now, they were getting a Brandon Marshall that was a little bit trouble back in his time with the Denver Broncos and the Dolphins, but it was discovered during some of that period that he had suffered from borderline personality disorder. Though he only spent 3 seasons with the Chicago Bears, his first 2 seasons seen him rack over 1,000 yards receiving. And had he not missed 3 games in his 3rd season with the team, he would have had another 1,000-yard season. When he eclipsed the 1,000-yard mark in his first season with the team, he became the first receiver since 2002 to eclipse the 1,000-yard mark. Even though the Bears did not make the playoffs in Marshall's 3 years with the team, he became one of the best receivers that the Chicago Bears have ever had. And that is including guys like Marty Booker and Curtis Conway. Now, they did trade him to the Jets in 2015, but Brandon Marshall's 3 seasons were the most impactful seasons from any wide receiver that the Chicago Bears have ever had. So this steal of a trade, even though it did not lead to team success, was still one of the best moves that the Bears have made in the past 20 years. And Brandon Marshall is going to go down as one of the Bear receivers that we've had. Now, the future can change, but as we stand right now, Marshall is the best receiver that the Chicago Bears have ever possessed. At number 4, we have the Hampton trade of 1979. During the 1979 offseason, the Chicago Bears traded defensive tackle Wally Chambers to acquire the 4th pick in the 1979 draft. Who did that turn out to be? Hampton. Arguably one of the best defensive tackles, defensive ends, probably defensive players in Chicago Bears history. During his career with the Bears, Hampton was a 4-time Pro Bowler, a 4-time first-team All-Pro, a 2-time second-team All-Pro, and the Pro Football Writers NFL Defensive Player of the Year in 1982. He also became a member of the NFL 1980s All-Decade Team. And of course, as our Bear fan selves already know, he was one of the key parts on the 1985 dominant Bears defense. His career lasted from 1979 to 1990, and in that time he recorded 57 sacks in 157 games. Though the sack number might be a little low in today's standards, you have to think about the game as it was in the 1980s, where teams did not throw as much as they did now. And also, Dan Hampton was one of the most versatile defensive players in team history, as he played defensive tackle at times and also defensive end at times to utilize his skill set within the Scheme 46 defense. And at the end of his career, in the year 2002, Dan Hampton was elected to the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And if you want to hear Dan Hampton's voice now, just tune in to the radio show after the game, as he currently is the host of the post-game show for WGN Radio in Chicago. Coming in at the number 3 trade in Bears history, we have the 1939 trade of Sid Luckman. This is one of the unknowns to me too, because when I was doing research on this topic, I didn't even know that Sid Luckman was acquired in a trade. The Bears traded with the Pittsburgh Pirates at the time, which is the Pittsburgh Steelers now. They gave the Pittsburgh Pirates money in order to get the number 2 overall pick in the 1939 draft, which they used to select quarterback Sid Luckman out of Columbia. Now, Luckman to this day is arguably still the best quarterback that the Chicago Bears have ever had. He led the team to 4 NFL championships in 1940, 41, 43, and 46. Also, he was a 3-time NFL All-Star. That was the Pro Bowl back in the day. He was a 5-time first-team All-Pro and a 1-time second-team All-Pro, winning the NFL Most Valuable Player in 1943. He also led the league in passing yards, passing TDs, and passer rating 3 times respectively. He is a member of the 1940s All-Decade Team, and he also still holds many records in team history quarterback-wise, and he still holds the NFL record for most touchdown passes in a game with 7, which he recorded in 1943 in a 56-7 win over the New York Giants. Now, to give away cash to get arguably one of the best players in NFL history, I would consider that to be a big steal, as the Bears 40 dynasty was just one of the great dynasties in the NFL. Now, the Super Bowl was not alive back then, but the NFL championship was the Super Bowl of that era, and the Bears dominated that era, with Sid Luckman running the T formation, the famed T formation, created by a great Bears legend and also founder of the team, George Halas. And of course, as you guys may have already known or thought, Luckman was inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame class of 1965. Number 2 on this list is the 2018 acquisition of Khalil Mack. Now, I know some of you guys are going to say, how can I put Khalil Mack over one of the greatest players in Bears history in Sid Luckman? Now, hear me out on this one. I put Khalil Mack at the number 2 spot mainly because of the potential impact that this trade can ultimately end up having on the Bears as of now and in the next few years. This trade happened right before the start of last season, the Bears acquired Khalil Mack, a 2020 second-round pick, and a conditional 2020 fifth-round pick in exchange for the Bears' 2019 first-round selection, 2020 first-round selection, as well as 2019 sixth-round selection and 2020 third-round selection. Now, right after the Bears acquired Khalil Mack, they made him the highest paid defensive player of NFL history, giving him a 6-year deal worth $141 million with $90 million guaranteed. And Khalil Mack made his presence known from game number 1, recording a forced fumble, sack, interception, and touchdown, all in the first half of the Sunday Night Football contest against the Packers. Mack finished his first season with 12.5 sacks, 6 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and a pick 6. And the 12.5 sacks were most by a Bear player since 1993, and that was done by Richard Dent. He also made the first team All-Pro selection and also finished second in the Defensive Player of the Year voting. Now, the potential that the Bears trade for him has is that number one, that keeps them elevated, along with the pieces he has as the number one defense in the league, despite the loss of Vic Fangio. And number two, his presence in the locker room and his play elevated everybody else on the team, on the defense, to lead them to an unexpected 12-4 record in the 2018 season. And if that season has anything to say about the future of the Bears, that makes it just that much brighter that you have one of the best defensive players in the game on your side. And with his play and his potential, he can go down as one of the best linebackers in Bears history. And we all know the Bears have the best history of linebackers with Singletary, Urlacher, George Connor, and the guy I have at the number one position. And at number one, we have Dick Butkus, 1965. This is the second trade on this list that includes the Pittsburgh Steelers. Now, this trade did happen before the 1965 season, but the Bears ultimately traded a second-round pick at 64 and a fourth-round pick at 64 in exchange for the first-round pick in 1965, and that turned out to be none other than the great Dick Butkus. Dick Butkus was one of the fiercest, hardest hitters, meanest, toughest players to ever play in the NFL. And he just so happened to play for our Chicago Bears. Even though his career only lasted a short 9 years, Butkus' impact on the field was absolutely tremendous during the Bears' struggling times during the late 60s and early 70s. Butkus was an 8-time Pro Bowler, a 6-time first-team All-Pro, a 2-time second-team All-Pro. He won Defensive Player of the Year in back-to-back years in 69 and 1970. He was a member of the 1960s All-Decade Team and the 1970s All-Decade Team, and a member of the NFL 75th Anniversary All-Time Team. And of course, he is a member of the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Now, even though I wasn't alive personally to see this, I've been watching highlights of Dick Butkus pretty much all my life. And even now, I would not want to face that man one bit. The way he just destroyed running backs, destroyed ball carriers, destroyed quarterbacks, and made his impact and his presence felt all over the football field. He is the personification of the middle linebacker position. Dick Butkus is a feared individual on the football field. Point blank, period. Now, thank you guys for watching today's episode. And if you have any thoughts about any other trades that I might have missed, or your thoughts on my list of the top 5 trades, leave your thoughts in the comment section down below. I really want to discuss with you guys what you think about the Bears trades, and how do you think any trade impacted the team from the time that they were being traded. Well, without further ado, I'm signing out. See you guys in the next episode. Peace out.
I wanna say thank you to my mom and my daddy for making love the night that you had me. Wanna thank my friends, my sister and my brother.